Recording. Так. Брысь отсюда, дружок мой. Так, сейчас.
Ну все, ты уже на записи есть.
Да, но запись точно есть, сейчас еще в эфире будет.
Так, вот уже.
Тебе тоже пришло сообщение, что
Да,
третьим
да,
лицам будет, значит,
да.
нет. Ника, пожалуйста, уходи.
Да посмотрим.
Так. Мы проверим. Да, все двигается. Здесь я выключу звук. Окей. Well, welcome everybody. If there is anybody listening to us now, apart from this little listener, we will be talking today with Nataliya, who is a psychologist and based on Malta. And the topic is the usual: how do you get to grips with English? How do you work in English? And so on. Nataliya is the first guest who has got a couple questions from you already, and we will certainly cover those. But to begin with, let's just start speaking about what Nataliya does, what she is, and how it all goes. So just anything you feel relevant, just tell us about yourself.
Okay. So thank you very much for inviting me to this lovely event. I'm really happy to see you both and to see our guests today. So as you introduced me, my name is Nataliya. Originally, I'm from St. Petersburg. I'm a psychologist, and for already 8 years, 8 years and a half, I've been living in Malta. And I'm working as a psychologist all my life, and right now I'm working in a government agency here in Malta, and as well I have a private practice with my clients. Most of the time online, like most of us. So like this.
Yeah, and you work in English.
In Malta, I work most of the time in English, but online, most of my clients, I speak Russian.
Mm-hmm. Let's speak about those who speak English. Like, what kind of people are they? How did you start? How did it feel starting? If you remember your first session in English, tell us about that one.
I don't remember my first session. I try to remember, but unfortunately, there were some clients when I started to work in English, and most of them. First of all, I wanted, when I arrived in Malta, I wanted one day to start to work in English. It was a kind of challenge for myself, and I had some ambitions to work in English. As a psychologist, it was very interesting for me, and slowly my clients, they started to refer to me, I don't know, relatives or friends, and I started, it was or some clients who lived abroad and couldn't, for example, I don't know, find someone who has the same qualification as myself, or who, for example, has a partner or husband who speaks English, and they didn't feel comfortable to speak only in English, so it was maybe some families, or to work with their children who also speak English better than Russian, for example. So it was a mixture, not exactly English-speaking clients. So I think I started from this area. And what about my job in Malta? It was an interesting story I wanted to share with you. I don't remember, I don't know if you remember or not, but we had a course online together with you about confidentiality. And,
I do.
Yeah.
Confident English, the very start of my career as a coach. So you were the inspiration.
And you were inspiration for myself as well, because one of the questions it was the first or second day, it was, what is your goal in English? What do you want? And then I remember how I wrote in my diary that, okay, I want to find a job where I could practice English, where I could work in English. And it was funny because after 2 or 3 days, they called me from the agency and they invited to a job interview, or it was already a decision that they wanted to hire me. I don't remember, but I remember that it happened exactly after we discussed this question on this course. So it works.
Yeah, well, we have to launch it again, I guess, if it works wonders like that in just a couple days.
Immediately, yeah.
Really, really nice. You mentioned your diary. Do you also keep it in English? Do you write in English sometimes?
Right now, I write it in Russian. At the beginning, when I moved to Malta, I wrote it mostly in English, just to practice the language. Right now, no, I continue in Russian, but it's very interesting experience, not only for the language, even for your for some reflection, to keep it in different languages, so you will have different results.
That's
If
true.
if you want to be more connected with your feelings, do it in your own language. If you want to find a new solution or to be more logical, it's better to write it in another language. So it depends what you prefer.
What else? What else did you do to prepare? Like, were there any steps that you had taken before you started working in English? Or was it just like, okay, let's do it with what we have now?
Of course, I think, like most of us, we study all our life. I started to study English quite late. It was after 20, after university, my first course.
And your first language, French? Was it French?
French, yes, it was French. So I think from that day, all my life, I tried to do something. So even to go to some courses or English schools or something like that. So even my motivation to come here in Malta, when I arrived here 8 years ago, because they offered me a job over here in Malta. My first motivation was to improve my language.
That's a nice way. You get paid for that, and you're achieving your own goal at the same time. Well, speaking of courses, Malta is famous for language schools, language courses. I've heard a lot of them. Well, nothing specific though. So have you ever tried, or have you heard anybody try the courses, the English language schools? We'll talk about Maltese a bit later, but
yeah. Yes, Malta is very famous about these schools, and my first year here, I tried for a couple of months my first school over here. Then I had other chances to join for 1, 2, 3 weeks because I had some part-time jobs or other projects. So I think I've studied at 4 courses. In general, I believe that most of them, they work more or less on the same base. They use communicative method, and it's quite interactive. They have more or less the same structure. Usually you have, I think, basic English, it's around 20 hours per week. If you need, you can have more. And even some of the schools, they have some specific courses like business English or something like that. But basic English, it's quite interesting. You have a lot of fun. At the same time, they change many activities, so you can repeat the same, for example, grammar or the same vocabulary in a different context. and they use a lot of, I don't know, activities, games, so it's quite fun and quite interesting. So what I know from feedback of other students, and I believe that it's very good for people, especially if you have some, I don't know, Soviet background or something, and if you, for example, have a lot of information already and knowledge, but you still don't feel comfortable to start speaking. So for this aim, it's very good because many people, they said that they started finally to speak after this these courses.
Okay, so they do work and they work quite well. But how did you learn the profession-specific, the job-specific language? Or like what helps you work in English? Because I guess it's not only about the language, of course, and that might be quite a lot of support. It can be very resourceful to have the listening skills in general. I mean, as psychologists must, I think, must be qualified to understand some cues which are nonverbal as well. But still, did you study any specific psychological English, and how did you do it?
Sorry, I'm frozen or you're frozen? I don't know.
Yeah, it's fine by me.
Okay. 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 So, yes, it's quite specific. I can't say that I learned. I think we had few lessons with you, with my colleague. It was this time. I haven't learned something specific by myself. Usually I learn from practice. Because, for example, at my job, we have, I don't know, sometimes the same assessment, we use the same tools. So when you prepare to your sessions, you want it or not, you need to read and to study this vocabulary. What I use in my private sessions, more or less the same skills which I use even in Russian. For example, active listening, when you don't understand the question or when you're not sure, or even just to show to your clients that you understand them well, you just repeat or you paraphrase their thoughts. So more or less the same skills, and they help in English as well. And of course, non-verbal communication, it's very, very important. I have I have very interesting case right now because at my job I have a client who speaks French, and I mentioned that right now I don't practice French, and I haven't spoken for, I don't know, 20 years in French, so I forgot it completely, but I still understand it. And she feels comfortable to working with me without an interpreter. So even my French is very poor, but so even not speaking well, we managed to communicate, and she feels supported, and for me it's a good result.
So you do speak French with her in the sessions?
I speak, I don't know how to call what I speak. It's not a good French for
technically
sure.
it is French, but technically it's not English, it's not Russian. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
I would call it franglais. So it's a mixture of French and English, but we communicate. Still
Perfect. And she gets the result she's happy with.
Yeah, she's happy. She doesn't want to. She said yesterday that she would prefer to work like this than with the help of an interpreter.
Wow, wow. I'm very interested.
The language is very important, but sometimes it's not that important than other maybe skills. So when you feel each other, when you communicate, when you feel that you still on the same
Wavelength.
wave. Yes, so it could help.
That's we should start, I don't know, practicing German with you. Let's have our next session. I mean, me as a client, you as a psychologist, let's speak German. Like, why don't we?
No. It's too much for me.
I'm so impressed. I had a question like, what do you do if you don't understand what the client says? So do you just say that openly and ask them to repeat it? Or do you, like, what do you do? Like, if you...
It depends. It depends. If I don't understand completely, I just ask to repeat. If maybe I don't understand some words in the context, I can just miss it.
Okay, so it comes up again. If it's important, they would say it again in
Because
some other...
even if you don't understand some specific words, the context is more important. The meaning of the topic and...
Wow. I'm still impressed. Well, I had such a session once with a couple of my students where we, well, it was intended to be a listening session, but first I started with showing them a movie with no sound at all. And they could understand what was happening, like what the people were doing, how they felt. And then I turned the audio on and it only got more confusing. So people got like, what's going on now? What's going on now? So without subtitles, well, it was quite a hard thing. It was not adapted, an original series, an American one. So yes, it was tough, and there was some specific lexis, like deviate from your lane, отклоняться от, как-то, господи, выезжать на другую полосу, не на свою полосу на дороге. So it was about cars. But yes, I was really impressed with how well people can understand just from the context, from gestures and other cues.
Yeah, and because I have this background, you know that one of my qualifications is family constellations. And in this method, for example, we don't talk too much and we don't rely on the information which clients give us with words. Most of the time we rely on the information what we call from the field. So
a language in itself. It's a language in itself, I believe. Wow. Well, speaking of contexts and backgrounds, one of the questions that we have for you is if you feel the difference in cultural backgrounds of people you consult in English compared to people you consult, you work with in Russian. So in Russian it sounds like как ощущается разница культурных бэкграундов? Like, I would say, like, do you feel people are different?
Definitely yes, especially when I work as a family constellation facilitator. Because when I work just as a psychologist, and most of the time we're talking more or less the same topics, we all have the same feelings. But when we go deeper down, I feel the difference about the story. For example, when maybe it's not that funny topic, but I have this example. When we work, for example, in Russia with some family context and the story of other generation, very often we have these stories of, I don't know, abortions in the system or some traumatic events which are related to, I don't know, the Second World War, it's what we have common, but for example, some repressions, it's something specific. Over here, for example, in Malta, they have different stories. For example, they don't have abortions, so it's not the topic which they have in their family system, but they have some other story about, for example, properties or some family conflicts or some secrets in the families. when they had some, I don't know, in the past, someone with mental health issues, and they had to hide them inside of their houses. So the stories are different, but feelings they are more or less the same.
Wow, wow. So they don't talk about abortions, or they don't really do it at all. What
They still forbidden.
Mm, mhm.
Yeah.
So it's illegal on
yeah.
Malta. I see.
And it's not that often, because in our culture, unfortunately, it was so often that every family has some.
Awfully. Yeah, my granny had 16. Can you imagine? Like before she had my mom, she had 16 abortions. So that's kind of a
And
background.
unfortunately, it's quite typical. And over here, the culture is different. So it's, still it exists, but not in Malta, and
Okay.
not in every family.
Well, and we have a question from Vera, who says,
Hello, Vera.
if you are a professional, like 10, like you can grade yourself, you are great, like on the scale 1 to 10, you are 10 in professionalism. You are an expert who can be assessed like that. But your English can be assessed like 3 or so. And she feels that people kind of believe she's not professional enough. So they don't see her 10 in professionalism because of her 3, as she thinks. I'm not sure. She has 3 out of 10.
I'm sure it's not about Vera by herself, but just an idea.
Yeah, well, so how could you manage it? What could you do about it? I mean, I guess she means the impression that people have of you, apart from speaking perfect English like this, like learning perfect English overnight. So how do you manage, or do you even care at all about this impression that people have of you because of your English, which is like...
I do. I do care, and I don't have good news if you're talking about this topic, because life of migrants is never easy.
Hello, Vera. Face it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And one of the biggest challenge is the language. So you want it or not. I don't want, for example, studying languages. It's not my cup of tea, but you have to do it. Another way that, and you need to be ready to face it. That yes, it's not easy, but it's possible to improve slowly. Maybe you will never be perfect for 10, but maybe you will improve for 4, for 5, for 6, for 7, and every year you will feel more and more confident. But of course, I don't have an easy
No
solution.
wonders, no
Yeah,
miracles
no,
here. But
no.
do you use any other ways to show, to impress people, to show your professionalism, to be accepted, to be seen as a professional, apart from language? So do you kind of compensate it somehow? Like, I don't know, wearing fancy clothes, driving an expensive car. This is something that comes to my
No,
mind.
it's not my way. What I can do just to share my knowledge, and I know, for example, I don't feel confident speaking in English with my colleagues. For example, I know that still I have long way to how to improve, and what I want to improve in my English, for example. But I try to share my professional opinion, my experience, my knowledge. So this is the only one way which I use.
The only. Well, speaking of that, I'm not sure I can find this TED Talk now, but I have once watched a TED Talk by a French native speaker, but he was speaking English, and his English was quite bad. At some points, it was barely intelligible. Like the accent was just so bad. it was really hard. So that's the thing with accents. If you are easy to understand, it's perfectly fine if you have one. But he was even difficult to understand, so it was bad to that point. Still, he made it to the TED, like not just something. So the things that he had to share were considered to be that important to overlook.
What supports me to see these examples, because even I participated some conference, and what I enjoy and what I really like living in Europe, that you can easily understand other people when they speak English. So maybe when I speak with some colleagues from I don't know UK, it's much more difficult. But in Europe, and even I remember it was one conference, and when not all the speakers, they had excellent English. Some of them they were maybe my level and they were low. So I thought, okay, and they were accepted and had positive feedback. So because you always compare yourself with someone higher. You say, oh no, I'm not that well, I still need to improve this, that, or that. But when you see that other people, they try and they share, and they could provide some important information, you start thinking, okay, maybe even I need.
So what is that the thing inside of you? Is it your mission or something which lets you risk? I'm still thinking about French, so you agreed to work in French, not even English, because what? You wanted to help that lady.
I think I'm quite adventurous. So
I love it.
Yes. So with this client, because just I see that we have a contact, and I thought, okay, we can continue this way. Sometimes when what I and I think all my life in Malta, when you don't have other option, okay, you're already here. Other people, they don't speak Russian, so you want it or not, you have to speak. So you have to try. So I think it's to put yourself in this situation when you don't have other options. Because if not, I would continue to stay at home and.
Yeah, this is, and you need to have courage. You need to be adventurous to try and place yourself in such positions, in such situations.
You need to do it once, and then you just face the result of your decision.
Yeah, and then it kind of evolves.
So for me, it's easier than to study, for example, every day. I can't do it by myself. If I don't have a strong motivation, and if I don't have strong interest to the topic, and as I said, it's not my case, so I just need to have some external I don't know, pressure or motivation.
Yeah, support, external support. Well, French, English. I know you have taken up Maltese at some point. Which other languages?
No, just Maltese. Yeah. But
Tell us
I
a bit.
still at the beginning, and I'm not studying, I'm struggling. So this is my current situation.
Why? Is it about the language or the teachers? I remember you had a funny course where they taught you some irrelevant lexes, something like скобяные изделия or so. I forgot what it was.
Yeah, that was something, I think it's a mixture, but the first thing, and I think this is the key reason, lack of motivation, because I still not balance between I don't want to do it, but I have to do it, but I don't want more than I have. So, so it's not easy. I don't enjoy studying languages. I think this is the main reason.
Why don't you put yourself in such a position with Maltese when you have no other option?
Mm, good idea, but still I'm thinking why. When I can manage with English, this is the reason.
So everybody speaks speaks English there pretty much.
Yes, yes. Between
Nice.
themselves, usually, Maltese people, they speak their language, but officially they have two languages in the country, so it's quite easy and
Nice place. Seems to be a nice place. Well, so you don't like studying languages, so I assume you don't have any plans as to, taking up some other languages. Like, what are your plans with languages? Like, are you going to take up French more seriously now that you have the client, or English again?
I still want to improve my English first, because first of all, I need it more, and it's international language, and for job and study opportunities, I still need it, and I still want it to improve. I want to study at least a bit Maltese, at least to go to some level when I really can communicate at least a little bit. And yes, I want to improve my French. I want to come back and to, I would say it like this. I don't want to study, but I want to speak.
Let's, how do you say it? Let's skip it to the good part. Is it skip? There is an idiom. I forgot it just now. Let's skip to the good part. Yes, I believe that's what it sounds. So, to finalize, what would you say to those colleagues of yours who want to start consulting in English or any other foreign language, but they doubt they can, they're not sure they can hear people, and they believe it is very important, because I've heard it a lot, like, okay, you can do any other job in poor or like intermediate English, but not those professions which are mostly about talking, like psychology, coaching, yeah, things like that. But they still want to, and they're afraid, and they don't start because they believe they don't have the perfect level yet.
I do, at least it helps me, and I do very simple step with English-speaking clients. I always, in my private practice, I always do the same procedure. I offer them, before we schedule the first consultation, I offer them just to call, to speak 5 minutes, to check if we understand each other. And then only after this small conversation, I tell from the beginning that I'm not a native speaker and I understand English, but if you feel comfortable, we can continue. If, for example, you don't feel comfortable, so I share responsibility with you.
Well, yeah, it can be any other thing, by the way, yeah, something that cannot work. It's not always about the language, so there might be all sorts of things that could come up in that first conversation. Like, yeah, that's very simple, and that's reliable.
Yeah, and it helps me. Yeah, it helps me because at least I don't think all the consultation, oh, maybe my English is not that good, what they thinking, how I'm stupid or something like that. No. I tell it from the beginning, and that's it. If they agree, we continue.
Yeah, so it's a good idea to have this, they call it a chemistry session, which is free. So whether there is chemistry or not, whether you can work together or not, be it the language that could be the obstacle, be it something else, you still need this chemistry session. And once you've had it, it's no longer, there is no longer need for this ruminating, like guessing if it's good enough. Now I'm frozen. If it's good enough or not. I'm back. Great. Yeah, it's not even the encouraging words that I thought of, but that's actually an action plan. Just go and schedule a chemistry session with just one of them, one of the clients you've been thinking of. Fine, I guess we will leave our audience with that. Thank you so much, and don't leave just now. Okay.